Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Anywhere Uni live podcast. Tonight, I'm with my friend Rose from Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences. We are in Amsterdam, so it was the opportunity for us to meet there and to present and dive a bit deeper into these University of Applied Sciences that sometimes get international students a bit confused and not sure what we're talking about. So we're going to clarify everything in this chat. Jose, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you here in my hometown, Amsterdam.
Exactly. I'm really, really happy to be here with you, and I love to do these in person when I can. So thank you for accepting the invite, and we're going to dive right in. So first of all, could you introduce yourself? What do you do at the Amsterdam University of Applied Science?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jose. I work as a university representative for the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, very specifically for our international account, essentially in which I do relationship management with amazing counselors like yourself, as well as I look after our industry partnerships. Because we are a University of Applied Sciences, it is very important to stay well connected to the labor market. So I essentially oversee our strategy and make sure that corporate engagement is being operationalized in the university. One more to follow on that.
All right. And so in the Netherlands, we have universities and universities of applied sciences. I think you call these regular traditional universities, let's say research universities.
Yeah, correct.
And so what students get confused that is it the same thing? Do you get a university degree from a research university and from a University of Applied Science? What's the difference?
Yeah, for sure. So here in the Netherlands, we have something called a binary system. So let's take a step back in history and see how this all actually started. So traditionally speaking, and this, as I said, was back in the past, and this is how the different types of universities essentially started. Universities of Applied Sciences offer profession-oriented programs. So what that really means is that oftentimes you will see that those programs are specifically tailored to a particular profession. As research universities, on the other hand, they offer academic programs. So it's important to clarify that there's firstly no better or worse. It's just a completely different learning style. So depending on whichever learning style you would prefer, that most likely would determine the right fit. And it also kind of depends a bit on the type of discipline that you would like to study. So there's this gray area, for example, like business is a great example. That is one of the disciplines that you essentially could study at both types of universities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
However, there's also sometimes, depending on the discipline that you would like to study, it's kind of like predetermined. So when it comes down to occupational therapy, that's only offered at the Universities of Applied Sciences, or let's say music or dance or hospitality management. Those are all examples of degrees that are only offered by Universities of Applied Sciences. And on the flip side of it, there are also degrees that are only offered by research universities. Think, for example, of psychology, the ones that are being offered in English, or let's say medicine. So that sometimes already would kind of like predetermine the track that you would go on.
Okay, and so if we compare it to other countries, I know in France there would be an equivalent to what we call the BUT, the Bachelor Universitaire de Technology, and in the US would it be more like community colleges equivalent, or?
Yeah, not really. I don't know. It's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? But I kind of compare it, let's say, to the Austrian system, the German system, Swiss system. They also have Fachhochschule, and that essentially would translate into a University of Applied Sciences. So something to bear in mind is that applied sciences doesn't mean applied sciences as in physics or biology, which people often think, right? Like they would see me at the university fair and they would see Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences and they straight walk up to me like, right, Jose, what type of biology degrees do you offer? And I'm like, well, that's not really the meaning of it. It means applied sciences as in hands-on learning, project-based, and apply the knowledge that you obtain in class immediately.
Okay. And so you still get a university degree from a University of Applied Science?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So in our case, students would be awarded a Bachelor's of Business Administration or Bachelor of Science. And it's interesting. It's like, as I said, it's still a university degree. It's just a different learning style, but it doesn't limit your opportunities when it comes down to pursuing a master's degree.
You could still do a master's.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's interesting to see how the industry in the Netherlands now has been shifting, really. Traditionally speaking, you could only pursue a master's degree at a research university. And then being a graduate from a University of Applied Sciences, you would need to take on a pre-master. And afterwards, you could pursue a master's degree. However, you see that more and more universities of applied sciences do offer their own master degrees, which are as valuable as a research university, but just a different learning style. And then once you go abroad, it essentially all goes out of the window.
It's the same.
It's the same because
You have a bachelor degree. Yeah, that's it.
Well, there you go. That's the bottom line. That's the most important. So just let's take me as an example, right? I'm also an alum of the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, and I decided to do my master's in the UK. And I immediately transitioned from the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences to Northumbria University in Newcastle, in the northeast of England, to pursue a degree in marketing.
All right. Yeah. So it's basically, I guess, more for some students would flourish. Well, there is some subjects, as you said, there's no question. If you want to do hospitality management, it's going to be a University of Applied Sciences. If you want to do philosophy or international relations or history, maybe it's going to be a research university. And for the students that could look at degrees that you would find in both, like engineering type degrees, business degrees, how can they choose? Why would they? Why should they? How would they know that they would flourish and feel better within a University of Applied Science or within a research university?
So I would say first stop, check admissibility requirements, because there are differences in terms of admission requirements. So that's definitely a first stop. But then I would say, I always give this analogy. We've all been there, right? Like go to IKEA and then, you buy whatever product it is really, but then you get all different components, but you need to assemble it yourself. So it's not as black and white, but just to give you the gist of it. There are two types of people. Type A is very much like, all right, let's take it all out of the box, get all the components, have a quick skim through it, look at the manual, see what it says, get a bit of an idea, and then, we'll find out as we go. Yeah, very much like learning by doing. And then there's type B, who are people who are very much focused on, let's stick to the manual, who are more analytical, they really prepare themselves, they study the manual, and then step by step, very consistently, they follow the steps that are being outlined in the manual. And kind of the same would go, I guess, to assess the right fit student for research universities or applied sciences, because, applied sciences is very much like type A. Students get exposed to an academic framework, but then in order to truly learn how it works, they just apply it and they learn along the way. Whereas research university students are more analytical and they're really more focused on the why. So after being presented that academic framework, you really dive into the nitty-gritty of it, as opposed to at applied sciences, get an academic framework and then apply it through, for example, business case. So you could also see that the vibes, generally speaking, at research universities and on applied sciences are different. They're not better or worse, they're just different. Oftentimes lecturers hold a PhD because they need to be analytically very strong at a research university, and at applied sciences, they hold a master's degree, but they used to be working professionals or they part-time still work in the labor market and are very keen on bringing their experiences back to the classroom.
And one of the big, very concrete difference is the length of the bachelor degree. So it's not the same as long in both.
So generally speaking, research universities, it takes you 3 years to complete the bachelor's degree, and applied sciences 4 years. There are some accelerated programs there for students who just find research universities too academic, and the 4-year programs at applied sciences too practical. So there are some accelerated programs. But yeah, generally speaking, it takes 1 year longer to complete a degree at the University of Applied Sciences. And oftentimes that has to do with the fact that doing an internship is built in and integrated into the curriculum. And also the pace is slightly slow compared to research.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. And I think that's one of the major differences is when you go for a bachelor degree at a research universities, likely you might have to do a master's specialize in something because you might not be ready for the job market. When you come with a bachelor degree in 4 years with that year of internships from the University of Applied Sciences, you are technically ready to access the job market.
Yeah, because you see that the transition is very smooth. So it very much depends per program, how they have structured their programs. For example, in our case, our students in their final year, in their 4th year, they're out of university. they're literally in the labor market, doing a full-time internship, writing their thesis for a particular company. So they're out there and they're already integrated into the labor market.
Well, that's great. So yeah, that clarifies already really what a University of Applied Science is. Now, we're in the Netherlands. The main language here is not English. So we heard and we know that the Netherlands universities in the Netherlands have a lot of English-speaking programs. We've also heard that the government was kind of slowing things down a little bit. Maybe it was too popular. And so how do you see that? Do you still have all of your programs offered in English? Is it just some of your programs are offered in English? Do you need to speak Dutch at all to access them?
Yeah, so indeed, let's address the elephant in the room. It's kind of hard to have missed it, isn't it? It's really tricky. At the minute, it's really tricky. I would say the situation very much differs per institution. Research universities, generally speaking, tend to have more English taught programs compared to universities of applied sciences. So that's already like one of the differentiators. What I've noticed at my university is, as of now and so far, nothing has changed and nothing will change. Definitely not in the short term. So for September 2025 start, into September, nothing will change because they can't. Like, they need to give us time, right? So it is a bit more of a lengthy process. Having said that, nothing is certain at the minute. So, some programs need to go to the ministry again, and they essentially need to make the business case, and then it's up to the ministry to say, like, okay, you actually have a solid business case to offer you a degree in English, or no, your business case isn't as strong and then you should change it to Dutch. But I doubt that it would affect current students who are in the program. Like, I can't imagine that, a student who is in the second year all of a sudden would need to switch to Dutch stock program. I think those type of measures, because they're so radical, it would become effect of the new cohort of students. Now, Amsterdam is very international. The Netherlands, as a country, I would say, is very international. I'm not really sure if you had a chance yet to walk down the streets and order a coffee, but I often hear from my international colleagues and some international students that even though they tend to speak Dutch, then whenever Dutch people detect a bit of an accent or there's an expat working at a coffee shop, they immediately switch to English. So it's definitely not needed. But I would say studying a language is so much more than just the art of exchanging words in another language. It's also about understanding a culture. And yeah, no matter how you turn the stones, it would give you a competitive advantage also in the labor market. So I definitely would encourage students to learn Dutch, especially if they're keen or kind of have an idea that they would settle down in the Netherlands. It would be always helpful.
So they don't have to take a Dutch class?
No. So we as universities, as it currently stands, but once again, everything is now in politics. It's a bit up to discussion. It hasn't, I don't think it has already passed the House of Representatives. There's a bit like, on and off type of thing. But we as a university should give students, as well as faculty, not only students, but also our international faculty, the ability to study the language. But it wouldn't be a key component or requirement to be able to pass the program.
Okay.
That's my current understanding of it.
All right. So now let's talk about your institution. Let's talk about the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, which is now, I hope everyone that is with us understands, is different from the University of Amsterdam, also called UVA. Sometimes, so two very different institutions. There's no link really between the two. And so the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, what kind of institution is it? How big is it? What kind of programs do you have in English? Because that's what.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. So we are the largest university of applied sciences in the Netherlands. I'm not really sure whether that has to do with the fact that because we're located here in Amsterdam, but
probably helps.
But let's leave that one in the middle. Essentially, we have a multi-campus. So as opposed to other universities, especially those abroad, we don't have one big, massive campus.
Okay.
We have multi-campus, meaning that the university consists of 6 faculties, and each faculty is either in one part of the city center in one building, or actually sometimes if the faculty is too big, for example, like the Faculty of Business and Economics, it might be spread out in different buildings across the city. but then oftentimes programs are grouped together. So that's kind of how it works. So even though we are the largest university of applied sciences, when I was a student, I didn't really feel that because international business, for example, is part of the Faculty of Business and Economics, and international business has one dedicated floor in the building where all lectures take place and where all lectures are. So essentially, it's really easy to find people, even though we are the largest university of applied sciences. So we offer 2 degrees: the traditional classic 4-year University of Applied Sciences program in international business, and accelerated 3-year program for example, IB students, French bac students. Then we also offer a degree in occupational physiotherapy, and we offer a degree in international sports studies, which essentially is kind of a crossover between international business.
Sports management.
Yeah, sports management, business. So students take sports modules, like literally sports modules. They work out of the class.
They actually have sports?
Yeah, totally. As well as alongside it, they take business courses. So it's a business management degree specifically tailored to the sports industry, which is numerous fixes. And we have a fashion program as well for those students who aspire to become fashion designers. And then our biggest international program for sure is international business.
Okay.
So with an international business degree, you could still work in the sports industry or fashion industry. It's just not as tailored towards those industries. It's a bit more generic.
And so in English, you have these 3 bachelor degrees.
Yeah, 4. So sports studies, fashion.
Fashion, yeah.
Physiotherapy and international business.
Okay. And so when students look at University of Applied Sciences, that's usually what they're going to find. They have to check which programs they have in English, and then one might have something, the other one not.
So there is a great tool. So sometimes I get questions from counselor students, and like, actually, I do kind of have an idea on what I want to study, but I'm not too sure. So I'm not sure if you're aware of the tool, but do you know Study Finder?
Yes. No, I haven't spent a lot of time on it, but yeah.
Okay, well, it's stuff. At least you know what it is. So I would say that it's very easy. Like, even, let's say you have a bit of an idea, but you don't really know where to start. Just go to Study Finder, put it in Google, it will pop up, and then it will also specifically say whether it's being offered by a University of Applied Sciences or research university.
Great. That's great. Okay, and so in this English-speaking program, do you only integrate like international students, or is it a mix of local Dutch students and international students, and what are the ratios?
Right. It's certainly both. It tailors for our international students as well as our national students who aspire to pursue an international business career, which we really believe starts in the classroom. Like, how can you, pursue a career in international business without being exposed to different cultures and that type of stuff? It depends a bit per program. To be honest, I mainly represent our international business faculty, so I don't know really too much in all details about the other programs. But just to give you the gist of it, for our international business program, our 4-year program, it consists of approximately 39% of international students, and our accelerated 3-year program consists of 77% international students.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, that one is way more international. Yeah.
Okay.
And it has to do with still the associations Dutch people have with universities of applied sciences as well as research universities, because in order to be admissible for the accelerated program, you would also be admissible for a research university. And Dutch mentality still can't really wrap their head around the fact
that you can do a 3-year degree at the University of Applied Science.
Whilst being eligible for a research university. There's something about it. It just doesn't feel.
So how many students for a cohort? Just to.
So we have approximately 70 students starting in our fast track program, accelerated program, and around 800 starting in our 4-year program.
Wow. Okay.
Our 4-year program by far is most popular.
That's a big.
Because the 3-year program is really niche, right? Like, it's what I've heard from students, like, oftentimes it's either like, I really want to study as much hands-on as I possibly could, and then they go for the 4-year program, or actually when they are very academic and analytical and they really enjoy the IB program, for example, they would oftentimes opt for a research university because they just find the fit to be better, which makes perfect sense because that's what we're all about, promoting the right fit, just informing about the possibility. So the 3-year program, because it's not as practical and hands-on as the 4-year program, but at the same time not as academic at a research university, it's just super niche.
Yeah.
So that's why
Yeah.
it's not as popular.
Makes sense. All right. And so for we're going to talk about admission and the application process in a minute. In terms of tuition fees, how does it work? Is it based on your passport? Is it based on something else? And yeah.
So it's good to note that regardless of the type of university you're applying with in the Netherlands, to a very large extent, not to full extent, because there are always exceptions to the rules. For example, private schools, there are not too many, but they have their own tuition fees. University colleges, but also sometimes just degrees at research universities or universities of applied sciences, they also might have their own tuition fees. For example, our physiotherapy program has their own tuition fees. But generally speaking, across the board in the Netherlands, tuition fees are being standardized depending on nationality. So let's imagine you hold double nationality, then you can just decide to apply with your EU nationality, and then you would qualify for local fees, which are around 2,600 euros a year. And for non-EU nationals, it's about 10,000 euros a year.
Okay, which is still quite affordable compared to some other countries.
For sure. And also it's good to know that if you're in the process, let's say, you have only non-EU nationality, but you're in the process of getting EU nationality.
Oh, you could switch?
You can.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So
not every country does that.
Yeah. And you could also switch after your first year.
Okay.
Or after a couple of months.
Yeah.
You just need to inform Central Student Services, and in most cases, they will approve your request.
Okay. Any scholarships for international students?
Only for non-EU nationals,
Yeah.
Because it's already a reduced fee for EU nationals. So for non-EU nationals, we offer something called the NL Scholarship, which essentially means that you can only apply for once. And then it essentially means that if you're interested, you're being invited to participate in some sort of case study. And then depending on the outcome, you will get the scholarship or you won't.
Okay, so it's
up to 5,000 euros.
So it's not based on need or
no, it's not based on merit.
Yeah. Okay, it's on that case study, on how well you do on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Okay, cool. And so, yeah. One last question before the admission in the application. So what does it look like a week, let's say in that business program at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences? Some countries only have like 9-10 hours of contact hours a week. So what does it look like a regular standard week at your institution?
So we try to give students 1 day off a week, just to be able to...
And the weekend.
And a weekend.
So 3 days off a week.
3 days off, exactly. There you go. Yeah. So 3 days off a week, 4 days at university. Yeah. We do expect students to be attending classes or work on group cases or assignments together with their classmates for approximately 20 hours a week. And then for the remaining of the time, another 20 hours a week, we do expect students to self-study, prepare for classes, that type of stuff.
Yeah, that's quite a good amount of hours, 20 hours a week.
Yeah, so it's a bit like half-half, as we would like to say. In terms of like classroom and sizes and that type of stuff. So in the first 2 years, students get assigned to a mentor. So sometimes, it's quite similar to the high school system, I would say, in the sense that the first 2 years, you have a mentor who's your first point of contact. And then if you need any support on academic matters or like non-academic matters, because there's some sensitive topics to address, then you would be put in touch either with the study advisor or study counselor. And you will be placed and assigned to a group of 30 students per class. And that essentially will form your consistent group of people and peers with whom you would be taking classes with, you would be working on group projects with. And that's why our classrooms are also catered for maximum 30 students. So that's kind of like the vibe and the size.
Okay.
So I'm studying international business.
And actually, I'm just thinking about another question now. Hey, what about accommodations? Because I know in the Netherlands, it's difficult and we tend to encourage students to apply early to give themselves time to find accommodation. Do you have some student residences or not? And how does it work for international students?
So we do have some partnerships and agreements with contractors, and that becomes available as of June for September intake, so just a couple of months before. However, I always say, please don't put all your eggs in one basket, because the reality is, worst case scenario, we can't give you a room for our student housing services. Then it will be nearly impossible to find a room on your own after that. Yeah, in June, like 2 months before the start of the academic year. You would be pushing it too much. So I always say, like, a study link applications open on the 1st of October for September start. So I always say, like, okay, once you put in your application, even though you're not too sure, that's essentially when your investigation and your research should start. Just look into, okay, like, there are these more affordable options, so to speak, like room.nl and stuff, but they work based on priority. So the longer you're registered, the higher your ranking will be. So let's say you will be interested in a particular room, and 30 others are interested as well. Then the one who's been registered the longest, that will get priority. If that person declines, then it will be passed on to the second one on the list, etc. So there are those type of housing providers, and there are also others who just work on a first come first served base. So just really make sure that once you put your application in, or at least a month later, let's say November, December, start really going into doing this research and dive into the process. What type of providers are out there? When do applications open? When do they close? What are the price ranges as well, right? Because, like, we're talking about different price ranges. Like, there are those more, well, I wouldn't really say luxurious, but those residence halls that offer more facilities, which you would pay for it. So of course rent would be much higher as well. And there are those who are more affordable, just outside of the city center. But they all have their own application deadlines, registration deadlines, that type of stuff. So make sure to start the process and really know, and just write them down. Write all the deadlines down. Make some sort of priority list for yourself, and then you'll be fine. It's just like you need to be prepared.
It is a very important point. All right, so now I'm interested. I'm convinced. Sounds great. I don't think it's the right fit for me. I'm an international student. How do I apply? When do I apply? And what's the process, the steps, and what's going to be requested of me to get a chance to maybe get a place at Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences?
Yeah. So the general application deadline is the 1st of May in the Netherlands. Okay. So that is definitely one to remember. And then the numerous fixes deadline, which means for selective programs, it's the 15th of January. For centrally selected programs, I need to put it that way. So for our sports management program and physical therapy, those application deadlines are already on the 15th of Jan. Because you would need to participate in some sort of assessment and that type of stuff. Then besides that, we don't really have any early application deadlines. StudyLink opens on the 1st of October and closes on the 1st of May. So how we work as a university, it's just admissions is on an unrolling basis. So whenever an application comes in, our admissions team will review it, and then based on that, you will receive either a conditional offer or not. But oftentimes you will receive a conditional offer because you would know what the admission requirements are. And then from there it's actually smooth.
So numerous fixes, meaning there is a limited number of spaces, right, and you usually get more applicants than places, so you have to set a bar. So for these type of application, is it then first come first serve, or as long as you meet the deadline, you'll be treated on the same?
As long as you meet the deadline. Okay. Yeah. So those ones, this numerous fixes ones, are indeed as long as you meet the deadline, and then once the deadline closes, that's when the program will start doing all the assessments and selection procedures. So that doesn't matter.
Okay. And so your business programs, for example, they are not.
No, they're not selective. No, they're.
So what does that mean?
Yeah. So this is always a bit mind blowing when I talk to internationals, because they're like, so you say it's non-selective. So you're saying that essentially, as long as you meet the admission requirements, you're in. Is that what you're saying? It's as simple. You upload your transcript of records. Our admissions team has a look at your documents. If you're admissible, great. You get a conditional offer. You need to graduate. sending your diploma. That's it. You're welcome. Let's start, and we'll see you on campus in September. That's kind of how it goes, like the really rough general lines. So sometimes I get this question of like, yeah, but hang on there, especially internationals, like Dutch people as well, also this question, but it's international. They're like, yeah, but what if you get all of a sudden, let's say you plan for 800 students, right, who come. But all of a sudden, you get 1,000 applicants. They all seem to be admissible.
They're all going to get their IB, their French back.
There you go. And they actually would show up. Like, what would you do? Would you then still, reject people?
Question.
Or like, what would you do? And then essentially, we would accommodate for all those students.
But maybe you'll put in reverse fixes the following year.
Well, it's not as easy as you would think. Yeah, it's quite a lengthy process.
Okay.
So yeah.
Oh wow.
So don't worry about that. That's
so basically, as long as you have the requirements, you're in.
Yeah.
Okay. And
there is something important to mention. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just think it's important for you to know, and of course the viewers as well, is that there is an application fee for non-EU nationals. An application fee, it's not too much, it's 100 euros. And let's say you would apply for international business and you would apply for international sports studies at our university, you would only need to apply the application fee once.
Okay.
So once you already paid it once and you apply for a program, and you add on another program in StudyLink with our university, then you only apply for once.
Okay. And so what are the, let's take an IB student. So the IB diploma, you need the full diploma, so 3 high level, 3 standard level, 24 points. Do you need specific subjects? Do you need specific, are you going to look at, do you have math or do you have this? In the French bac, students could drop math at the end of grade 10 and not take in the bac général, which is the pre-university bac. Yeah. They could drop math. Some research universities I know could be picky on that and say, you need to maintain some math until the end of grade 12, etc. And so what about University of Applied Sciences? Do you look at, did you take the right subjects, or is it just about getting the diploma?
Right, so it depends on the diploma. So let's take a NEET International Baccalaureate or French bac as an example. In that case, there are no subject requirements. Okay. So technically speaking, if a student hadn't taken mathematics, then they would be eligible. Okay. However, my advice would be not to pursue that career path. So even though technically, yes, you could, I would say, please don't. And please allow me to elaborate on this, why I'm saying it, because it's quite a bold statement. I'm aware. It's just, I always say, and I always tell students and parents and counselors, it's like, this is not a mathematics degree, right? So I don't expect you to be some sort of expert.
Mathematician.
Yeah, no. I mean, I wasn't myself, that's for sure. But mathematics, it is such an integral part of the program in the sense that it comes back in economics. It comes back in financial management, and supply chain management, quantitative methods. I could go on and on quite a bit but also in modules as you wouldn't expect, marketing. Okay, you drop a marketing budget or marketing proposal, all good to you, but okay, explain to me the return on investment. Why and how could you convince the higher up to actually go for you?
Well, not there because
yeah. So essentially what I'm trying to say is like, it's such an integral part of the program in so many different ways that if you haven't had taken mathematics, you would struggle big times, and most likely you would need tutoring. So I always say, as you said as well, I don't expect you to be a mathematician, though definitely not, no. But you need to at least have some affinity with it, and you need to be comfortable with cracking the numbers, because as I said, it just gets back in so many different ways, in so many different modules. And I've seen firsthand from students who started the program without taking any mathematics, and they just struggled big times. Yeah. So I guess for any business degree, it doesn't, I guess this is, would you say it's universal advice?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you. Yeah. And so I know in research universities, there's something called binding study advice, BSA, which is, and that's kind of how I explain to students when sometimes they say, the entry requirements are not so high. How come they are good universities? And I said, because there is a kind of a pre-selection based on if you are eligible, but then the first year is not easy. It's you need to make sure you pass that first year, and the BSA means that small percentage of students might not be able to pass into year 2. And so this kind of a second selection. And so how is it in University of Applied Sciences? You also have that or not? And how is the first year in general?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's a universal thing. It's for all universities, it's all programs.
Even for
BSA, yeah. What might be different is the number of credits that students should have obtained to be able to proceed. That is something that is up for discussion and differs across programs. So some would, for example, say you need to have gotten at least 55. Others would say, no, actually 50 is sufficient. Whereas I've also heard from some of my colleagues that some programs say, no, actually, you need to have obtained 60 out of 60 in order to progress to the second year. So it very much depends per university, per program.
Wow.
But the goal indeed, and the idea behind it is the exact same. And we'll explain. Because it's always a bit of a, what is it? But no, exactly, precisely as you said. Essentially, the proper check happens after the first year of university. So the first year of university is intense. It's not only changing from high school to university, which oftentimes already brings a fair share of its own challenges, but it goes beyond that. It's more than that. It's, adjusting to learning styles. It's high-paced, it's fast-paced. Proactivity is extremely important, all the type of stuff. So the first year is oftentimes to be seen and perceived as quite intense, and especially for those students who didn't do their secondary education in English, it's quite a switch.
Yeah,
especially the first couple of months, you could really see that students are really struggling with
feeling the pressure.
Yeah, but it's not only about sitting in lecture and then making sure to actually understand what the lecturer is saying in that language. It's about also you should be able to write your assignments, and also in a social setting, right? You would be accompanied with students literally with peers from all across the globe. So Dutch wouldn't do the trick. You really would need to speak English in order to make contact, in order to work on group projects together, etc., etc. So the first year is quite intense.
Well, that leads me perfectly to my next question. What's the level of English that you're expecting from international students if they're not studying? Let's say, I'm sure if they study a full IB in English, they don't have to give an English language test. Let's say they come from the French back, they come from France. What do you expect to make sure they can survive in your English speaking program?
Yeah, so we would ask for a language proficiency test. So just the regulars IELTS, Cambridge, TOEFL.
Okay. What kind of score level could you give us? Do you have an idea on IELTS?
I think it's
TOEFL?
average 6. I think it's for the 4-year program. It's IELTS is 6 on average with no sub-scores lower than 5.5.
Okay.
And for the fast track, the accelerated 3-year program, it's 6.5 average with no sub-scores lower than 5.5.
Okay.
Yeah, good. But also the specific admission requirements, as before language.
Your website.
Exactly. I'm just trying to think of how sometimes your podcasts say just check the program page.
Okay. And for students, do you have students sometimes that would struggle a bit in English when they arrive? And do you have support for English, or they have to make sure they're at the right level when they start?
I mean, it definitely would be helpful. I'm not gonna lie. So if you have the time and financial resources, I definitely would say maybe a short course in the UK would be helpful. Just for a couple of weeks, just to get in the shifting used to it. Yeah, exactly. But also stuff like just reading a book, for example, or watching shows or listening to podcasts without subtitles also would go a long way. But I mean, if you have passed these language proficiency tests and we would approve it, it does mean that, the foundation is there though. Otherwise, you wouldn't have passed the IELTS test, for example, right? So I wouldn't be too worried about it. As long as you pass the requirements, then it means that the foundation is there. But it's definitely helpful just for yourself to be well prepared to take, as I said, take a short course or listen to podcasts or read a book, that type of stuff, just to prepare yourself and get into the habit.
And so, in different school system, high school system, in France, we have 3 levels of bac. We have the bac professionnel, bac technologique, and then bac général. The IBDP exists, but there's also the IBCP, which is more career oriented. So a University of Applied Science like yours, would you consider all type of high school diplomas? Yeah.
Yeah, we absolutely would. The thing is, in terms of admissibility, it's a bit different depending on the track. So let's unpack it. So the first one was French Back General, no?
Yeah, which is usually the one pre-university. Yeah.
So that one would give you access to the 3 and 4 year program. And there are no subject requirements.
Okay.
So that one is quite easy and quite straightforward.
And then we have the bac technologique.
Yeah, that one is a bit of a case by case. So sometimes it gives you access to the accelerated 3 year program, but most times only the 4 year program. In that case, there would be a subject requirement. We do expect students to have taken either mathematics or business or economics.
Okay.
One of the three.
Interesting.
Not all three, but one of the three.
Okay. Like a math-based kind of subject, I guess. And then bac professionnel, you would accept as well?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that I give the right information, of course. We would, but then students would only be admissible for the 4 year program. And once again, students should have taken all the way through final year mathematics or economics or business.
Okay, super. Very clear. So students get on StudyLink, they list the program they want, then they get redirected to your website. What do they have to upload on there? Is it transcript? What grades are you at the English test? Any motivation letters, essays?
So the process is actually quite straightforward. So as you said, indeed, first you go to StudyLink, create an account, put your interest there, and then within 48 hours, oftentimes, sometimes within 72 hours, it depends a bit on the system. You get.
So don't worry if you don't get that email right away.
Exactly. Although, make sure to check spam. That is important one. You never know. Check spam. And spam folders and junk, highly important. And then you would get an automated email from our central student services with your unique student number, which oftentimes starts with 500. So please make note of that, because whenever you're in chat with our central student administration and they would need to look up your records, it's always helpful to be able to refer back to your student number. So make a note of that. And then essentially we just ask you to upload your transcript of records, which is of the previous 2 academic years, as well as the current year, whatever you've obtained so far. If by any chance you already hold an IELTS or TOEFL language certificate, please make sure to upload it as well. The more you upload in one go, the easier it goes. If not, don't worry about it. Just upload your transcript of records. And then after evaluation, our admissions team will essentially tell you whether you're conditionally accepted or not. And if you're conditionally accepted, it will also outlay
the certificate.
Yeah, very much specify on which conditions, so you know what you need to do.
And so you need to have that English language test to receive an offer. For some countries, sometimes it can be in the condition. They can say we accept you if you get 6 on the IELTS. Or so do you need to already have your score secured to apply your English score? No, you can apply without your English test.
Yes, but then so it depends. So let's take a business case. So student A did a French bac, also has the IELTS certificate, and uploaded both of them into the system. Then our admissions team will say, like, okay, you did a French bac, it is equivalent to the Dutch system, so that's check. And the language requirement also check because you have IELTS. Then most likely your conditional offer would say, congratulations, you've been conditionally accepted to the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences on the condition that you would graduate and that you would submit your final diploma in, well, whenever you would get your diploma, which I think is June, July.
Early July.
That's case 1. Let's say case 2, there's a same student from the same school, also French bac, but they haven't managed to take the English language certificate yet, because I know, like, test centers were full or whatever reason. Then the conditional offer will say, like, congratulations, you've been conditionally accepted on the condition, once again, that you will graduate and submit your official diploma by July. So that's 1. And condition 2 is that you would provide us with an English language proficiency certificate that would be up to standards. So the offer so the conditional offer will specifically outline what you would need to get. So the most important is transcript of records. That is something that you need. like, yeah, we wouldn't be able to issue a conditional offer without transcriptive records. But at that stage, it is not needed yet to have your English language proficiency test.
All right. And then you have to accept the offer.
Well, I mean, by default, you will accept it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
until you send your diploma, that's when you really, that's when you are.
and with A levels and GCSEs, it's a bit more tricky because those results come out, I think, in August, something like that. But the official certificates don't come out until September, October. So that's something else. That's a story on itself. But you don't need to officially confirm an offer, unless it's numerous fixes, though.
Okay.
Like numerous fixes, yes, you get like a very specific
Press that
timeline.
in a number of places, so they want to make sure that
Exactly.
say yes.
Yeah, and people get waitlisted, and that's a whole another procedure to it.
Okay.
But in case of non-selective programs like international business at our university, once you get an offer, you don't need to accept it. There's nothing you need to do except for making sure to send in your final diploma. And if for some reason you change your mind, just cancel your application in StudyLink, and
That's that easy.
Yeah.
And let's say you're not an EU student. You're applying from Morocco or from the US. You need a student visa.
Yeah.
So how does it work?
Yeah, so that is something that you are not allowed to apply for on your own. So that is a process that our university will facilitate.
Oh, nice.
We have an immigrations department on a central level, and they essentially look after all non-EU applicants, and they guide them through the process. They are the ones who will file applications to the national immigration services on the students' behalf, so they will take full lead on that.
And so as soon as you receive your conditional offer, the university can do that for you? Or you have to wait till you get your results and your first confirmed in July?
So most likely they would start the process already a bit earlier, like May. That's oftentimes when the immigration process would start. However, it's a bit of a tricky one because they won't fully process your application and submit all documents to national immigration services. I mean, that's our university, right? Like every university goes differently about it, unless you've submitted all your documents and the student's file is complete. Meaning that you need to make sure at the start of July that all documents are in, including the diploma. And I do know, depending on the diploma, sometimes it's a bit of a tricky one. And sometimes the turnaround time is very, very brief. So that is something to bear in mind.
Do you need to translate documents and transcripts, let's say in French to English, or would you accept documents in French?
I would need to check at the website, to be honest, because I do know it changes quite regularly. So I don't think so, but I would need to double check just to make sure.
I know it's indicated on websites. Sometimes it says, I know in Europe, sometimes neighboring country will say we accept.
Yeah, I mean, I think Spanish certificates and documents are accepted, German, French as well.
As long as someone in the team speaks the language.
No, then you're fine. Okay. Well, good to double check just in case.
All right. I think we covered a lot of grounds already. Anything that we're missing? Any that we haven't addressed that you think would be important to share?
Yeah, well, I just want to once again emphasize the right fit. And I just want to tell you and just want to emphasize it once again that there's just no better or worse. We've seen students who transferred from our university to a research university because they just found that to be a better fit, which is completely fine, but it also happened the other way around. So really make sure to really dive into that, really. And what is it that you're looking after? And it depends a bit per program. Maybe you're looking after or looking for a discipline that's so specific and niche that's not widely being offered. But for example, international business is a discipline and a program that's quite calming and popular across the board. So there are quite a number of universities who offer it. So my advice would be make a short list, but also really dive into the nitty and gritty of it. Because even though it's international business at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, or international business at Rotterdam University of Applied Sciences, for example, I'm just giving you a random example, yet the program itself, content-wise, might be different. So my advice would be really make sure that once you've made a shortlist, really take a deep dive into the programs, into the curricula, and really make sure to know what the differences are. because in the end of the day, comes back to right fit, which I think is crucially important. So really, for example, look into electives, look into the way career services are being structured. As I said during my intro, I'm also responsible for relationship management at our university with industry partners, but each program in university takes a different approach. So really dive into that and make sure what the differences are in order to really know what the right fit for you is. And also, since COVID specifically, so many universities have established such a great online presence on YouTube, on a website, etc. So
No excuses.
use it to your advantage.
But go visit if you can.
Absolutely, that's for sure.
You also have open days.
Yeah, we have 4 open days a year, physical open days, and we have 2 online open days for those students who are based abroad. So yeah, make sure of those opportunities and just enjoy the ride.
All right. Well, thank you, Jose. That was really, really great to dive into all these details and go and to learn and understand all this better. I think this was very helpful for our community and anyone watching or listening to us on Spotify or YouTube. So thanks again.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you on another episode of the Anywhere Uni live podcast.